Good morning. Welcome to Expo East 2019. Hope everyone's having a good show so far. Welcome. We're going to let a few more people file in. And as we were talking, people tend to come late, so if you're sitting on the end and feel comfortable in moving, shifting down here, that will ensure some of the late folks have seats, because once we get started, people tend not to walk all the way across this strange setup of this room. So anybody who we do have plenty of seats over here if you want to come grab a seat, or if you feel comfortable shifting a little bit so that we can give everyone a seat. You don't have to stand the whole time. Great, thank you so much. And it doesn't bother me if people need to move or walk, or if you need to leave, feel free. It is a little strange, the room setup, but it won't bother us up here. Well, good morning. My name is Carlotta Mast. I am the market leader for New Hope Network. We're the organizers of Natural Products Expo East in BioFoc America. We're part of the health and nutrition group within Informa Markets, and we're so glad that you're here, and we're expecting a great show. So along with myself, I'm so happy to have Andrew Henkel, who is the Senior Vice President of Brand Growth Solutions at Spins. And we'll be providing some data and insight context for how the industry is performing, where we're seeing growth and future opportunities. And then we're going to bring a panel up to speak with us. So I'm really excited for our panelists to join us here in just a few minutes to talk about how we're defining this industry, this natural and organic industry, and where we see future opportunities for growth and for really creating a strong definition of who we are and the impact we can have on the world in the future. And again, the goal is to set you up with the data and insights and inspiration you need to guide your journey through the Natural Products Expo East and beyond. And we really do have an amazing Natural Products Expo East planned for you this year. It's our 34th annual Expo East, and it's on track to be the largest Expo East ever, which is super, super exciting. Our West Coast show is very large and gets a ton of attention, so it's awesome to see the growth and momentum with an East Coast show, because as we all know, natural and organic products are a phenomenon and a movement all across the country. And so this year we have an estimated 29,000 attendees who will be here in Baltimore with us this week. We have more than 1,500 exhibitors, and that includes 537 first-time exhibitors, so many, many new innovative companies. We have 200 international exhibitors at this Expo East as well. And for the first time, we have a hemp pavilion, which showcases 50 hemp and CBD companies that have all gone through New Hope Network's hemp and CBD standards. So it means that they've been evaluated for label claims and gone through a pretty extensive evaluation process to be exhibiting at this show. And so while you're on the show floor, we'd also love for you just keep an eye out for the Step Up to Organic logo. Organic is such an important part of our industry, and we're really showcasing organic, not only at this show, but at Expo West, and really everything we're doing at New Hope Network, because it is such an important part of our industry. So keep an eye out for that. Welcome all of our BioFoc International organic exhibitors to the United States and to Expo East, and pay attention to organic. So let's dive into the numbers. I know a lot of you are here for the numbers, and I see people taking pictures of slides. That's totally fine, but we will be sending out the deck after the event. So if your badge was scanned, you'll be able to get the deck with all of the data and all of our insights. And so the industry as a whole, we continue to grow and do well. Last year, the industry, which we define as natural and organic and functional foods and beverages, dietary supplements, and natural living products, which are natural beauty, personal care, household, and pet products, that entire universe across all sales channel, retail and direct-to-consumer, surpassed $219 billion last year at 6.5% growth. And we're on track. The way we're pacing with our growth our growth, we're expected to surpass $250 billion by 2021. So much innovation, so much growth, and it's really exciting for me because a lot of the innovation that we're seeing today, it used to be innovation was about the new product format or the new flavor, and you still see a lot of that, but so much innovation is really geared toward revolutionizing our supply chain and making our packaging more sustainable, making our products truly cleaner and safer and healthier for consumers. So it's exciting to see what's happening in the industry. When we look at the industry as a whole, 70% of our industry sales do fall in natural and organic and functional foods and beverages. So when you look at this category altogether, it's about a $152 billion category, grew 6.6% last year, and across all categories we saw strong growth. Where we see the majority of sales is in natural and organic produce, so fresh fruits and vegetables. And last year, we saw the strongest growth actually in the meat, fish, and poultry category as consumers are looking for more responsible, more humane, and clean offerings in the meat, fish, and poultry category. And growing at 6.6%, we're far outpacing conventional food and beverage growth, which last year wasn't only stagnant, but for the first time actually started to decline. So you're seeing sales of conventional foods and beverages actually declining. It was a very small drop last year at 0.2%, but the fact that that is shrinking and we're seeing the growth, to me it's defining that this truly is becoming the food and CPG industry. And within food and beverage, a big movement is around consumers seeking functionality, true benefits from their foods and beverages. So the functional food and beverage category grew 6.6% last year to $68 billion. And a lot of macro forces and trends are driving this. A lot of our modern health conditions, consumers are seeking products that can support sleep, that can support stress, that can support eye health, that can support cognitive health. We're seeing a lot happening with nootropics and ingredients such as collagen and mushrooms and adaptogens and MCT and other healthy fats. So consumers are really seeking functionality in their foods and beverages. When we look at organic, this is now a $45 billion category. Grew 6% last year, according to our Nutrition Business Journal estimates. And organic is really thriving in so many product categories, and Andrew's going to dig into that in more depth. There have been some headwinds for organic dairy, just as we're seeing for the dairy category as a whole. But overall, organic is really, really healthy, and that's very, very good for our overall industry to see organic growing. Supplements, dietary supplements, another category. We've had years where growth has been slower and there have been challenges to supplements, but 2018 was a strong year for dietary supplements, grew 6% as a $46 billion category, so about the same size as organic foods and beverages. And every category within dietary supplements grew last year, including multivitamins, where we had seen much, much slower growth and even some shrinkage of some of these stalwart supplement categories like multivitamins. Those are growing. We're seeing a lot of growth in herbs and botanicals, in sports nutrition and meal supplements. And what we're seeing is that new innovations in delivery formats, the gummies, the powders, the liquid supplements, which make it easier and more convenient for some consumers to take their supplements, that's really helping to drive compliance and then growth of the category and bring in new consumers to the category. Of course, would be remiss not to mention hemp-based CBD supplements. In this category, last year sales were almost $300 million. That's a pretty conservative estimate, and are on track to hit $3 billion by 2023. Still a lot of regulatory murkiness there, but definitely on a growth trajectory. Within the natural living category, again, this is personal care, beauty, household products, pet products. This is now nearly a $21 billion category, so becoming truly sizable. And we're seeing many of the same trends that have grown the natural and organic food and beverage category and dietary supplements, driving growth in natural living. we're seeing that more and more consumers are paying attention to how clean the products are that they're putting on their bodies and bringing in their homes and giving to their pets. And so that's driving growth in natural and organic for these categories. We're also seeing the self-care movement helping this category a lot. So things like bath salts and face masks and the little luxuries that allow consumers to really take care of themselves, that's helping to add a lot of growth to this category in addition. Within natural living, the pet category is now a $7 billion category, and it's the fastest growing of all of the product categories that we track. And so it grew at 10.1% in 2018, and it's just been phenomenal to see the innovation and the excitement around natural and organic pet as more and more consumers are adopting companion animals. A lot of millennials are putting off having children and adopting pets and really treating those pets like they truly are members of the family and paying close attention to the products that the food and the other products they buy for those animals. And compared to the conventional pet category, which grew at 1.9% last year, it's amazing to see our 10% growth. So lots of opportunity here. We're doing a pet innovation challenge in a few weeks with a partner company called The Factory in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where we'll have 10 pet innovators pitch their innovation and in a challenge that they're facing in the market to a group of industry experts. And it's so cool to see. We've got companies that are pitching around personalized nutrition for pets and diagnostic health testing for pets, and companies that are using upcycling within their supply chain, and companies that are using new protein sources, more sustainable protein sources like crickets, and even some cellular agriculture that's coming into pet. And so the same trends we're seeing on the human side are very much well and alive in pets. Looking at channels, I'm not going to talk too much about this because Andrew is going to dig in a lot there, but when we look at sales of our industry products across all channels, e-commerce gets a lot of attention right now. It is our fastest growing channel at just about 18% in 2018. But it's important to remember that the vast majority of our industry sales are still being rung up in the natural and specialty channel and the mass market. Mass market grew at still a pretty healthy, nearly 8% rate last year. Natural and specialty, the growth rate was a bit slower. But I always want to point out how vital the natural and specialty channel is to this industry as an incubator of innovation, as an incubator of purpose and mission-driven companies. And so it's 26% of our industry sales at this point, still growing and vital to this industry. So if you're an entrepreneur, don't forget how important natural and specialty is to your company. Wanted to talk for a few moments just about some of the big macro forces that are driving change and opportunity in the space. And I have to start with plants. I think there is so much innovation and disruption coming from the plant kingdom in this industry. So from providing creative and increasingly delicious, but maybe not always healthy, alternatives to traditional meat, dairy, and seafood products, to fortifying and snacks and other packaged foods with inherently functional ingredients with nutrient density. Plants are redefining our food and CPG system. And of course, some of the big companies will have Seth Goldman, who's the executive chair of Beyond Meat, joining our conversation in a few minutes. Beyond Meat is getting so much attention for their rapid market expansion and how they're really defining the meat alternative category. Impossible Foods and many others. Kellogg's launched a new line called Incognito, which I thought was really an interesting name. But there's so much other innovation that I think it's important to pay attention to. We have certified organic dairy alternatives, such as Legrand is bringing to the market. We have companies like Good Catch that are using legumes to create a tuna-like product to save our oceans. We have Elma Farms, which is using whole marinated veggies as a snack option to take on the savory snack category in a really delicious and healthy way. And it's not all about meat versus plants, or people only eat meat or they only eat plant-based products. A third of consumers are reporting now that they're flexitarians, meaning that they're looking just to eat less meat. And so we're seeing innovation there. Cauliflower has a new line of chicken tenders that are encrusted with a cauliflower-based coating. So you get more vegetables with your chicken tenders. So I think that's a really important thing to remember. Another big force is the food is medicine force in our industry. And we talk a lot about, you'll hear a lot of our brands talking about let food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. Because it's true, food can either fortify and heal us or it can harm us. And the natural and organic industry continues to find innovative and delicious ways to get sugar, sodium, and some of the other bad guys out of our products while creating offerings that truly support health and vitality in specialized ways. You've got more and more paleo-positioned products like Egg Life and their egg white wraps. You've got, right now, keto is really, really on fire as consumers are understanding the weight management and health benefits of a keto diet. And so these keto products are offering low sugar, offerings that offer good healthy fats and even fiber. You're seeing lots and lots of incorporation of functional mushrooms like Four Sigmatic has in their products, and other adaptogens which help with stress and calming. This Genius brand has a new gamer product specifically aimed toward gamers, which as a mother of teenage sons, I have gamers in my family, and so this product has nootropics and astaxanthin for eye health, for optimal performance for a gaming community. Within food as medicine, that's a big force that's driving hemp and CBD. And how many of you were here yesterday for the Hemp and CBD Summit? So a few of you. That was a full day-long program of content about hemp and CBD. I won't go into it too much because it's a complex category. The regulatory landscape is still very murky and there's a lot of questions to be answered. But despite all of that, innovation is just on fire in this category. I mentioned we have 50 companies in our hemp pavilion, and that's just a slice of what we have here at Expo East. And since the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp has reemerged. It's been part of our landscape for millennia, really, but it's hit the CPG scene in a really big way. And more consumers are hearing about it, but they might not really know what it's good for. And my thought is, how do we as an industry best temper our enthusiasm for this historic hemp opportunity so that we're sure we can pursue it in responsible, legal, and even regenerative ways? And that's why here I'm featuring 4 products that are all certified organic hemp products. I think in the hemp category, perhaps more so than others, organic is so important because hemp is a bioremediator, meaning it sucks up the toxins and the pesticides and everything from the soil. And where do those go? Those are in the plant. And so having a certified organic supply chain and product set is essential in my belief for consumer health and well-being. So we have been surveying manufacturers a lot just to give you a better sense of all the innovation happening here. So we've been surveying our manufacturers this year to understand if they're currently selling hemp products or if they're planning to. So when we asked our universe if they sell hemp and CBD products and manufacturers in our Expo universe, in January, 71% said no. When we asked again in August, 59% said yes. So a huge shift there. When we ask companies if you're planning to sell a hemp or CBD product in the next 1 to 2 years, in January, 65% said yes. In August, 6% said yes. So we're seeing lots of companies just in the last few months enter the space. And consumers are also gaining familiarity with the category. We did a consumer survey at the end of last year, and at that time, 47% said they were familiar with CBD, while 38% said they weren't familiar at all. When we asked again in July of this year, 70% were reporting being familiar. And when my dad starts talking to me about CBD, I know something, we've jumped the shark or whatever the phrase is. He didn't have any idea what it was for, but he knew it was good for him. So finally, I just wanted to give a last plug for organic here, because I truly believe that organic gives an edge to innovation. Or innovation is so alive and well in our industry, as you will see at this Expo East. But some of the best innovators are ensuring that their products are certified organic. And I believe this provides an edge over the competition, and it demonstrates that it truly is possible to create cutting-edge products that are organic and even regenerative, and that you can have innovation and be a healthy, fast-growing company and have a certified organic supply chain feeding your product. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to talk more about the numbers.
Thanks a lot, Colorado, for having me here. It's an honor to get to talk to this group today. And every morning I wake up, honestly, just incredibly enthused about the fact that I get to work in the industry and work with the most exciting and dynamic brands, retailers, investors, brokers, distributors, who are really changing the shape of food, beverage, vitamins, health and beauty care, changing the store and changing the way we live and changing the way that people consume products. And at Spins, we're fortunate enough to, get to work with all of these groups to really create a common language for how we talk about our industry. And through that common language, we're able to fuel the growth of the natural industry. And some of the things that we see as a blueprint for growth in our industry are the fact that the retail landscape is fundamentally changing and evolving. It is not defined by the same rules it historically has been defined by, and there are some key seismic changes in the retail industry that are shaping this industry. The second big force is the fact that consumers are becoming increasingly conscious, and with their consciousness, they are finding new needs. They are looking for different things in the products that they buy, and they have a different set of expectations. And the third big force are the fact that there are a number of game-changing products. These three forces all work in harmony. Oftentimes, a game-changing product actually introduces something to consumers and to retailers that fundamentally changes the game and reshapes the way that we think about a specific category. And each of these forces actually play into the way that a lot of brands think about their growth strategy, through the fact that as they think about the retail landscape, they think about how can I gain new distribution. When they think about the consumer, they think about how can I be increasing my velocity. When they think about game-changing products, they're thinking about innovation and new product development. So these are the sort of the three fundamental core forces that I see in the industry, and I'm going to break each of these down in a little more detail today. So let's start with the retail landscape. At Spins, we have a complete view of the scanned retail landscape, everything from our core sort of natural and specialty gourmet supermarkets up to the conventional scaled supermarkets of the world. And obviously, the shopper in each of those channels is quite different. You have everything from very progressive shoppers in the sort of natural and specialty channels up to the mainstream consumer in the conventional channels. And when we look at the numbers in terms of what's going on within these channels, what we see is that natural products remain the engine of growth across the CPG industry, period, end of story. The natural products are the engine of growth, and particularly in the conventional channel. So when you look at across the entire industry, natural products make up about 10% of sales in the industry, but they deliver around 25% of the growth dollars in the industry. So natural products continue to punch significantly above their weight in the industry. And when you look at the conventional channel, between natural and specialty products, they're delivering more than half of the growth within those channels. So when you think about the future, when you think about where growth is coming from, it's coming from our industry. It's coming from natural and specialty products. And we see this shift happening across every single conventional retailer. Every single conventional retailer, there's a difference from retailer to retailer in the amount of natural products that they have in their assortment. But in each case, every single conventional retailer is getting a significantly higher percent of their their growth from natural products than any other products in their assortment. And that varies broadly depending on how well they're doing in their conventional products, but you see it consistently outpaces the amount of sales that they're getting in their assortment. So every single retailer is adapting to this and recognizing the fact that when they're looking for growth, they have to look to our industry. But the source of where they're getting growth from varies depending on the channel that you're in. We've always seen that natural channel is the indicator of what trends are going to be happening next, because you have a high concentration of progressive shoppers in those channels, and what they're buying in the natural channel often makes its way over to the mainstream channel in time. And so when you look at the categories that are driving growth, what you see is a very different picture, and it's a critical reason why you have to look at both channels. It's a very different picture of what categories are driving growth in conventional versus driving growth in natural. Some of the trends that you see overall, though, are the fact that plant-based, lots of plant-based categories and plant-based products continue to be engines of growth and key categories contributing overall growth dollars to their channel. CBD, which falls into our food supplements, which a lot of it falls into our food supplements category, continues to be an engine of growth. I was really intrigued when I saw sort of meat, poultry, and seafood pop up on the natural channel list. And what's really interesting is that seafood is another place seafood in general is a place that's popping up as a growth area, whether it be sushi in retailers or other types of seafood. It's another sort of hotbed of growth. So there's a clear difference in the categories, and what we expect to see is that a lot of the categories that are the engines of growth in the natural channel today shortly will be the engines of growth in the conventional channel tomorrow. So let's shift from the retail landscape into who's in those retailers, and that's the shopper or today's conscious consumer. And what we see through our product intelligence at Spins is we've seen a continual evolution, a deepening of the attributes and the needs of conscious consumers in the marketplace. You know, it used to be that everything was just purely about being natural or organic, and those are still fundamental drivers of our industry. But consumers have gotten deeper into the types of products that they look for, whether it be a dietary consideration such as paleo, or looking to sort of eliminate grains from their diets. So we're seeing a much more granular and deeper concern about the types of attributes that products have when consumers are shopping in the marketplace. And what we see is that those attributes always get their footing in the innovation channels of natural and specialty first. You know, I love to look at this picture because it's a lot of numbers, but I love to look at this picture because what this chart is showing you is it's showing you the sales mix for every attribute by where products with that attribute are being sold. The blue represents the conventional channel, the green represents the natural channel. And what you see is something like gluten-free is highly mainstreamed at this point. The majority of sales are happening in the conventional channel, whereas something like paleo still has a significant portion of its sales in natural. So it's growing incredibly rapidly. It's almost $700 million in sales, growing at a rate of around 50% versus last year. It's a rapid juggernaut of growth, and it is quickly mainstreaming, but it is right on the cusp of making that next turn on the S-curve. But as you saw on that chart, and as we see across the industry, there are a couple key trends that I'd be remiss not to call out and talk about today. First and foremost is organic, which is continuing to show incredibly strong growth. The second is plant-based, which we'll spend a lot of time talking about today and has fundamentally changed our industry. And then this trend around food as medicine and CBD, which I see sort of highly correlated and connected in the sense of consumers looking to food to be medicine and looking for function out of the products that they choose. So let's talk a little bit about organic. Organic is alive and well, and anyone who tells you something differently is wrong. Organic is still a core driver of our industry. We see organic driving significant growth across a broad range of categories. The only thing that's tempering organic today are some of the headwinds that have faced dairy overall. When you pull out the dairy categories, you see even more explosive growth from organic. So clearly, organic is still the hotbed and a key engine of growth within our industry. Plant-based. Plant-based is more than alternative to animal products. I don't like to even think about it as an alternative. I think it is truly a market in and of itself, and it's scaling with continued momentum. We see scaled growth in plant-based across a broad range of categories. In this definition of plant-based, what we're talking about are specifically in categories where there is an animal alternative, and it is seeing explosive growth across a broad range of these categories. And then food as medicine. So when we look at consumers and turning to food as medicine, we see a broad range of ingredients that are seeing just dynamic, explosive growth. Consumers are increasingly seeking out very specific ingredients to help them with their overall health and well-being. Things like collagen, which today represents $143 million in the marketplace and is growing, at a rate of around 81% versus last year. CBD obviously has been a game changer. MCT, mushrooms, ashwagandha, brewer's yeast, these are all ingredients, and some of them today you see, are small in terms of their dollar sales when you think about them in the context of the broader market. But together, this is a seismic change in the industry of people turning to specific ingredients, looking for the functional benefits that come from those specific ingredients. CBD is obviously one of the biggest. Honestly, in the years that I've been in this industry, I've never seen anything quite like the growth curve, or the growth trajectory of CBD. It has come from basically nowhere to being a $133 million attribute within tracked channels, growing at a phenomenal rate off of the base. And what's fascinating is you're seeing CBD pop up across a very broad range of categories. So sure, supplements is the biggest category for CBD. But you're seeing CBD pop up in skincare, you're seeing it pop up in candy, you're seeing it pop up in beverages, you're seeing CBD pop up across the entire store. So nothing has sort of changed the industry the way that CBD has changed the industry. The third sort of big factor that we see is around game-changing products. And what we see is that game-changing products are driving growth in every single aisle of the store. Produce is a core to natural, and we continue to see growth in produce. But when you look across the store, natural products and game-changing products that underlie natural are driving significant growth across categories everywhere. It's not just the sort of sexy perimeter categories where natural is driving growth and game-changing brands are popping up. Game-changing brands are reshaping some of the, most boring categories in the center of the store and making them, like that comment, and making them exciting for consumers. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. All right, great. I'll just talk even louder. So game-changing products are fundamentally changing every single aisle within the store. And what we see about game-changing products is they often embody three characteristics. First and foremost, game changers tend to target a desirable source of volume. So they identify a source of volume that is large and ripe for being disrupted, and they go after that desirable source of volume. Second, they then address that market with, they address an unmet consumer need within that market. And then the most important part is they continue to sort of stay ahead of the curve on the attributes of the products that they bring to market. So when I look across categories, though, what I see is that although there are a lot of exciting brands that we see in the market today that have significantly disrupted categories, I see a lot of categories that remain very ripe for disruption. Today, when you look across the top 15 categories in the store, natural products still don't account for hold less than a 15% share of those categories. What that says to me is that there are a ton of categories out there that remain ripe to be disrupted with innovative products that are going to tap into those desirable sources of volume, meet a new consumer need, and then stay ahead of the curve with attributes that keep pace with changing consumer, retailer desires. So, I open up the invitation to everyone here and everyone at the show to continue to think about what other categories can we disrupt and change so that we can bring more health and wellness to more consumers across the market.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And I think that's a great setup for the next part of our State of the Industry, which is our panel conversation, because that sets us up for where are we going to continue to have product and sales growth? Where will we continue to see innovation? And I also really want to focus on the next part of our conversation about what will define us as an industry in the future. We have so much opportunity to really impact the food and CPG landscape in significant ways. We've already done that, but when I think about where we could be in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, it's really exciting to me to think about the positive impact we could have, because are we going to be the industry that in some ways continues to contribute to the diabetes epidemic and other nutritional crises that are sweeping the globe? Or are we going to be the industry that actually truly turns that around and brings nourishment and true health, wellness, and vitality to society? Are we going to be the industry that contributes to our waste problem on this planet, where we waste nearly 40% of the food that we grow? Or are we going to be the industry that truly brings circular economy principles to our supply chain so that we can reverse that waste? Are we going to be the industry that addresses the truly negative impacts of industrialized agriculture on the planet that are contributing to climate change? Or are we going to be the industry that helps to finally address our plastic pollution problem that is choking this planet? We have the opportunity to do that. We also have the opportunity to create an industry where every person, regardless of your gender or your race or your orientation or your background, truly has a seat at the table of our industry and can help create the future that our children deserve, our planet deserves, and society deserves. And so with that, that's what we're going to discuss today with the panel. And so joining me, and if our panelists would just come up to the stage, and I'll introduce you while you're coming up, but super excited about having everyone here. It's kind of an all-star panel. We've got Seth Goldman, who is the co-founder and TEO of Honest Tea, and truly a pioneer in the organic industry. We have Sheryl O'Laughlin, who is the former CEO of REBBL and Cliff, and the co-founder of Plum Organics. And she's now the co-founder of two new industry groups that I'm super excited about, called the Jedi Collaborative and the Women on Boards Project. We have Jane Miller, who is the CEO of Lily's Sweets and the former CEO of Rudy's Organics. She's also the founder of a site called Jane Knows, which is this really awesome career advice website that I've turned to numerous times in my career for some very, very thoughtful advice. And then we have Laura Batcha, who is the CEO and Executive Director of the Organic Trade Association, and truly a leader of the organic industry. I'm so glad that you can join Andrew and I for this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And how I thought we'd kick it off is that, because part of what I want to look at is just how we're defining ourselves as an industry. And all of you have played really important roles in defining who we are today and how we've gotten to where we are today. So I'm just wondering if you could, to provide a little bit more context about yourself, maybe, talk about one example that has really helped to define your work in the industry, and perhaps that you feel has even helped to define the industry. And Jane, maybe we'll start with you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Carlotta. So I'm Jane Miller, and I'm the CEO of Lily's Sweets, and I'll kind of start there. Lily's, if you are not familiar with the brand, was established by an amazing entrepreneur, Cynthia Tice, in 2012, and we're a line of stevia-based chocolate products. And I think that to answer your question, the thing that I'm most excited about, and this thing that I think that we're really trying to hopefully change the industry, is we really wanted to see if this low sugar thing was a fad or if it was a big macro trend. And we were really enjoying some growth on the Lily's brand that would be a key indicator that this was actually not a fad. So we commissioned a quantitative study of mainstream consumers about 3 months ago, and to really understand their attitudes and usage about this. So these weren't natural users, they weren't people that were on keto diets, this was the mainstream consumer. And what I will tell you that I'm most excited about is when we did this research, which there was something about Lily's, but it was mainly more of an objective study to understand what consumers are thinking and how are they making decisions about sugar. What we found was that the top retailers in the country all wanted to hear about this research. We've had a top-to-top with the world's largest retailer, with the big retailers that are in the natural channel, and the key leaders of regional retailers that all wanted to understand what's happening with sugar. So I think the thing that I'm most excited about is that this is just not something that is in our industry, but it is very mainstream, and the biggest retailers are trying to understand about sugar and want to understand how they can change their product assortment to better meet the needs of consumers who are focused on cutting back on sugar.
Great, thank you. And as a true chocoholic, I think your products are redefining how I think about chocolate and think about a sweet treat. So I personally appreciate that. Sheryl, how about you? How do you kind of define your work in this industry, or what has defined that work?
Well, I think, I've been, hi everybody, by the way. I've been so honored to be part of all these really cool brands and to see so much change and growth in the industry. And I think it really came together to me working at REBBL. And how many people are familiar with REBBL? Yay! Lots of people. That makes me happy. The thing has been so special to me about REBBL is that it was born out of a nonprofit called Not for Sale, whose whole goal is to create a world without human trafficking, the fastest growing illegal industry in the world and one of the top 3 illegal industries in the world. And REBBL, we are able to grow this company in the last 4 years 23 times, and it's becoming a force out there. And it just really makes my heart sing, the fact that we've seen a nonprofit come together with a for-profit, blurring the lines so we can have so much more power to create change. And to me, that's where the future is going to come from. It's not just from companies. It's not certainly just from government. It's not just from nonprofits. It's all of these groups come together with passion to make the change that we need to see in the world.
Yes, when I first learned about REBBL's story and sort of the background, it definitely redefined for me where the origins of our best brands can come from and how that origin can actually create the brand. So it's been exciting to see what REBBL's been able to do. Seth, you've had so much impact on this industry, but when you think about it, what do you think is a defining moment for you?
Yeah, first of all, it's wonderful to be here. Such an exciting moment for our industry, and all the changes that Andrew described are so vividly happening. And I think for me, the main work I'm focused on is democratizing healthy products. We can't just sell healthy products to healthy people, because then we're not having the impact we need to have. And so I'm still haunted by the fact that in 2017, when the UN ranked the average life expectancy of all the countries in the world, the US, even though we are the wealthiest nation in the world and more knowledge of agriculture and medicine and nutrition, we ranked 33rd in terms of average life expectancy, which is shameful. And so we have to make sure that organic and lower calorie healthy products are available not just to the coast, and not just in the niche stores, but to everybody. And so one of the things we're excited about at Honest Tea is seeing our products carried in places like Subway, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, and McDonald's. And at Beyond Meat, we are also really focused on scaling and making and democratizing plant protein. So we're excited about the recent launches at Subway, the trial at KFC, Dunkin' Donuts. These are high growth opportunities, but also the chance to price them at parity to the analog. And that's when we can really start to make these products widely accessible and help change the trajectory for people's diets.
Awesome. It's a huge impact, and it is so disruptive to see. So, Laura.
You know, as I thought about your question, Carlotta, for me, it's not really one incident that sort of impacts how I relate to the industry as a whole. It's really the arc of my experience and career in organic. So I started in organic back in the late 80s farming vegetables. At the time, it was considered production scale farming in organic, and I sort of cut my teeth there. And from there, I went into my own operation, a small farm and processing facility, and first exhibited at Natural Products Expo East back in the early 90s, drove the van myself. It broke down on the highway on the way back to, you know, the classic Expo story. I grew that business and then sold the business to a CPG company, Thompson Maine. I worked for them for a decade through the acquisition by Colgate and got everybody settled in there. And then I've been at the Trade Association for a little over 10 years. So for me, the big gift there is I've seen the organic industry from different points in the supply chain and all sizes. And the thing that I'm most inspired about is it doesn't matter. It all is about creating goodness out in the world in integrity. And I love to see that there's still opportunity here at Expo East for small startup companies to make their mark and become successful, that we still have that low enough barrier of entry in this industry for good folks with a good idea to make a run at something. Like, that's unique to what we do. But then we've got companies that have grown to scale that, like Seth said, that can use that capacity to real good to push the envelope in terms of accessibility and exposure to our products. So we're lucky that we have that diversity and scale, and we're bound by that commitment to integrity. So that's the thing I'm most inspired about every time I'm here.
I love that. And I agree that whether you're small or large, that integrity can be what really binds us as an industry. So, Andrew, anything that you would share about a defining moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I came to this industry the way that a lot of consumers come to this industry, which is I had kids. And you look at your kids every morning, and where I was coming from, I recognized that a lot of the products I was working on are things that I would never give to my kids and honestly didn't even have in my household. And I wanted that to fundamentally change, and I wanted to work on at least one brand that I had in my cupboard. And fortunately, over the past 5 years, I've now worked with several hundred of the brands that I have in my cupboard and get to work with them on a daily basis. And it energizes me on a daily basis to get to work with such dynamic leaders and such dynamic visionaries at these brands that are truly shaping the way that we eat and behave and consume and are making the world fundamentally a better place.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm so grateful for that ability as well. So Sheryl, let's start with you. And along with leading brands like REBBL, you are now helping to bring these two new organizations to life in the industry: the JEDI Collaborative and the Women on Boards Project. Tell us about that work and why the people in this room should care about that and how it will define our future.
Yeah. Thanks, Carlotta, and I'm really excited about these initiatives, and hopefully you guys are too, and we'll be able to participate. So you know what they stand for. JEDI stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, the JEDI Collaborative. And as part of that is the Women on Boards Project. So just to step back for one moment, You know, I've been in this industry a long damn time, and I have to tell you, there is so much talent here. I don't think there's ever been this much talent in this industry. We are so lucky, yet we have a long way to go, guys. Because you look at companies and leaders and even industries who have looked so successful and they've seen the future and they're creating great change. And then you see, all of a sudden, they drop off. They fall off a cliff. Why? Because they miss an inflection point. Everyone, we are at one of those inflection points, okay? We have over half of this country who are women. We have 6 states in this country that a majority people of color, and we will have a country that is a majority people of color. So Andrew, you talked about consumer trends. If we're going to meet the needs of consumers and be innovative with products, we have to change. Okay, we have to change, and I think you guys all know that. But we have to make progress now, and that's just the business case. So raise your hand here if you are part of a purpose-driven organization. I bet it's every single person in this room. Okay, that is something we should all be so incredibly proud of. It's what's driven us into this industry. At the same time, you know, and you look at the things that we've done, like the Climate Collaborative, which launched about 4 years ago, through OSC Squared, which stands for One Step Closer to a Sustainable Future. It's a group of CEOs and key executives that have come together to progress these initiatives. And Climate Collaborative has now over 1,600 commitments to do things to help to draw down global warming. That's awesome. We stood up and we made progress there. But JEDI, again, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, goes hand in hand with that. A just society for people and a just society for the planet are inextricably linked. So this is such an important initiative, and I am so proud to say, you know, just a couple months ago, I quote-unquote retired from my day-to-day job, and one of the biggest things I want to focus on is making this change. And here's what we're going to do. So the JEDI Collaborative will be launched over the next couple years. It's going to be a major industry initiative. Thanks so much to Carlotta for bringing this forward. And we need all of your help. By 2025, we'd like to see over 2,025 commitments to making this kind of change, making a JEDI change in your companies. Think about it. Together, we will move an industry. Together, we can do that. For women on boards by 2025, we want to see the amount of women on boards to match the amount of women in our population. It makes sense. This is what will drive innovation and growth in our industry. So guys, this is it. We all need to step up together to drive this. This is not just about underrepresented or marginalized communities stepping up to the plate. It's going to take all of us. And I'll tell you, there's been so many people that have stepped up. Carlotta, Alex from Alpine Start. We've got Cara from VMG, Swally from Conure Life, Melissa from CD Shots, Ahmed from NUMI. But not only that, we have people stepping up, such as John Foraker from Once Upon a Farm. We've got Steve from Nutiva. We've got Les from Dr. Bronner's. We've got Ted from New Barn. I could go Ryan from Sambazon. Everyone's holding hands and saying this has got to change.
And it's amazing. Yes, that is work. So we'll be officially launching the JEDI project, or the JEDI Collaborative at Expo West. But in the meantime, we want to do a benchmarking survey of the industry to understand where we are now. So I'll give a little plug For that, you can go to jedicollaborative.org, and there's a link to the survey. We hope that every one of you, if you're the right person in your organization, will take that survey so we know where we are in terms of leadership, internal leadership, board leadership with women, people of color, and what kind of diversity and inclusion programs you have, or get it to the right person in your organization. Thank you so much for your work there. So Seth, we're going to turn attention back to plants. We've talked a lot about plants on the stage today. And, plant innovation is really rocking our food world and redefining how people eat. So how do you make sense of what is happening with changing consumer demand for plant alternatives, and what will this mean for the future of food?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because veggie burgers have been around for decades, right? It wasn't like we created something that was already there. But I do want to set the stage. There have been a whole series of tailwinds that have helped sort of create a different groundwork. So lots of different health reports around raising concerns around the health properties of animal-based meat. And I think most prominently the World Health Organization, when they classified processed meat as a class 1 carcinogen in the same category as tobacco and asbestos. It's pretty powerful. Red meat was classified as in the group 2A carcinogens, so certainly raising awareness there. You had the UN Intergovernmental Planetary Commission reporting on the fact that meat particularly is contributing to climate change in a significant way, and that if there's one step people can take, it's moving away from animal-based meat. And then, of course, raised awareness around the impact of treatment of animals, whether it's videos shared on YouTube or documentaries. There's certainly an elevated awareness, but that on its own didn't make the change. The change was really when a group of people, and obviously focused on Beyond Meat in this case, really looked at redefining meat. So instead of defining meat by its origin, think of it from its composition. So rather than saying meat is protein from an animal, meat is really an assembly of amino acids that form the proteins. It's lipids that form the fats, 70% water, and then some trace minerals and carbohydrates. And when you think of meat that way, then it's no longer a question of where it comes from. It's just how do you recreate meat from plants? Because, of course, all meat comes from plants. Cows are just a vehicle, a bioprocessor. They take in plants. They use their skeletal system and their bodies to create meat that's then harvested. And so what we can do at Beyond Meat is using science, we can help replicate the structure and the texture and the color transformation of meat. And the difference is that for decades before, it was always chefs that were used to recreate veggie burgers. And so what you saw were, quinoa or black bean, just different ingredients. But what we've done at Beyond Meat is hired 70 scientists, really scientists as opposed, in addition to chefs, to recreate meat. And that's made a step change in the quality of the product. And that step change resulted in our product getting merchandised in the meat section of the grocery store. So instead of being available and marketed to just the 5% of the population that's vegan or vegetarian, now it's available to the 95% of or really 100% of the population that might consider our products. And the step change in quality also led to a presence in restaurants where we're on the menu not just as a veggie burger, but as the Beyond Burger. And then the result was really materially different. What we saw at a chain, our first real chain was A&W up in Canada, the burger chain, and they saw a 10% growth in same-store sales. And some of you may have seen what happened with KFC that we did last month, just for one day. But what's interesting about what happened with KFC is the KFCs in the UK have had veggie products on their menu before. It wasn't necessarily just having a vegan-based product. It was the brand plus the quality of the product that resulted in the store basically being besieged. There was a mile-long cars for the drive-through, and they sold through, in 5 hours, they sold through what a normal store would sell through in a week. So it is absolutely a different moment. And I think the last contributor was the decision by Beyond Meat to do the IPO. We looked at the landscape. We felt that there was no other company that was going to have the commitment to the science and continual improvement that we've had to our business. There had only been 5 food or beverage IPOs in the past 10 years, but we felt that this was a product that fit both a need in the largest category in food with a brand and a differentiated advantage, and the response continues to be very strong.
It's been amazing to see the response as a vegetarian. It's been kind of game changer for me in terms of the accessibility. And you know, in the IPO and just your market penetration has gotten a lot of attention. And there's also been some attention that is paid to the nutritional profile of Beyond Meat. And I wonder how is the company addressing those questions, and what do you think it means for the future of kind of the nutritional profile for plant alternatives?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, there is that whole issue that the World Health Organization raised around meat, and we can't put that on a nutritional package, that this is not a class 1 or class 2 carcinogen, but obviously there's awareness there. Our product has no cholesterol, so that's clearly a health advantage. Our product has much less saturated fat, so that is also an advantage. But you know what's neat about what we're doing is that we're continually iterating the product. So the cow has stopped evolving. The cow is a fixed target. But every year we're improving both the ingredient profile, we're able to both get a cleaner label, we're also trying to improve on the health properties. So sodium is an issue, that's something we're working on, and we've already identified several ways to make the product lower sodium. So we can just continue to iterate on that. But there is, I would say, even where we are currently, it meets a lot of health goals for people.
Absolutely. Any plans to go organic?
Yeah, so we actually are currently sourcing some of our peas from the United States that are organic. There's a lot of other parts of the supply chain that are going to be hard to get there, but we do have our sights set on being able to get to that, made with organic peas, and that's a realistic goal for us.
Feels game changer.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Jane, speaking of nutrition, you had mentioned the research that Lily's has done around sugar consumption. Can you share some more insights from that and what you're learning about consumer perceptions of sugar and just how they're thinking about sugar consumption?
Sure. So probably no surprise to everybody here, sugar is a big deal. It's a really, really top of mind with consumers. So our research that we did shows that 82% of consumers, and again, this is a mainstream consumer, the only screens were 18 to 65, and so across the country, every demographic, 82% of people are trying to cut back on sugar. Probably anybody here trying to cut back on sugar? You guys are not fitting the demographics of 82%. But when we dug a little bit deeper, what we found was that only 36% of people are actively trying to do anything about it. So 82% say they want to do something, and then when you really say, tell me what you're doing about it, it's a much smaller percent of the population, although it's still a very big demographic. And then when you kind of dial to the next level, what the key issue you find is that people are emotionally connected with sugar. There is this real sense of when I eat sugar, I feel good about myself. Oh, and then after I eat sugar, I feel good about myself, and then I feel bad about myself. So there's this real kind of dichotomy about sugar, but people are really, really tied to it. And when you get into sort of the usage overall and how people make decisions, what we found was that people are emotionally connected, but they also believe that sugar drives so much taste. And in this emotional connection with sugar products, it's all about taste. And so if you're not going to have something that's going to taste good, then you're not going to have that to get that sort of emotional high that you have from eating a sugar product. So how do you sort of get this taste piece of it matched with something that has less sugar? So then you kind of dial it to the next level, and the issue is if you ask them about non-sugar sweeteners, the response is either they don't taste good or they're not good for me. And even healthy products like plant-based stevia are still viewed as something that people don't understand or concerned about when they eat it. So I think this is really, really a big topic. Now, spoiler alert, anybody who loves to eat sugar or has a sugar business, sugar is still going to exist. Even the people that are trying to cut back, 7 out of 10 people, or 7 out of 10 occasions, they still want to eat sugar. But trying to provide alternatives for people to have a better lifestyle and have more options. So I think the big finding, and again, as we went to these large retailers and talked to them, everyone's trying to understand how they better communicate that there are options that taste good and how you better communicate that there are options that are not scary and that are healthy for you.
What's been the best way that Lily's has found to get people who maybe see, a low sugar chocolate, I don't know about that, to get them to try the product? Because as I've experienced, once people try your product, it's like, wow, this is really satisfying.
I think the biggest impact has been the number of influencers that have really talked about lilies. And I think, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Cynthia Tice developed this amazing formula that allows us to have great tasting products that are also low in sugar. But I think when our business really exploded was with the keto diet, that this is a very communicative group of individuals that really started telling everybody about it. And the research that we did actually says that 50% of how people find out about new products, no surprise, is from friends and family. And so I think that just kind of reinforces it. So it wasn't necessarily that they tried it, they just had someone that told them that it was really good and they should try it.
Those influencers have a lot of influence, don't they?
They do.
So Laura, let's finally shift our attention to organic. And as both Andrew and I discussed, organic is thriving right now. It is facing some headwinds in dairy, but it's strong and innovative. And yet we also face some big challenges in organic related to organic supply and even still some consumer confusion about the value of organic. Can you talk about how OTA is addressing these?
Sure, thanks. You know, we launched a project in 2019 called Grow Organic, where we're prototyping some programs to address some of these long-term core issues for organic. And I think the thing that I'll start with is that the beauty of Grow Organic is companies on their own can do amazing things to impact their supply chain and the future and the consumer. But there's a real power when players in the industry come together and work on something that sort of the rising tide that lifts all boats. So that's really been our focus with the Grow Organic campaign. And in our 2019 prototype programs, we had about 70 industry players come together to contribute some financial resources to the campaign, and we raised well over $1.5 million for 2019. And there were 4 areas that the industry identified we need to really dig in on here. The first one was consumer understanding and consumer research related to organic. And this was based on the recognition of what we've been talking about, that the demographic in the United States is changing, and that the organic industry may not be as attuned and is used to listening to diverse voices for potential consumers. And we wanted to really dig into that, because if we don't understand that and intentionally try to listen, we're never going to hear what's happening around us. So we invested a tremendous amount of resource in a 9-month consumer project that we're going to have a workshop on tomorrow to start to unveil the results. But we had an interesting approach. We started with thought leaders, and then we did quantitative with over 3,000 consumers, but we intentionally over-selected in diversity, demographics, and age, so we could really get at where are the differences in attitudes and needs around organic. What do people care about in terms of the planet and people and health? And we came out of that with some really great results. As we're packaging the results of those studies, we're going to be making the research available to our full membership, as well as toolkits about how to connect, how to hear, how to listen to different types of consumers in the changing demographics. So I'm really proud of that work, and that's something that the whole industry can benefit from, and we were able to harness that together. The next piece of it is the promotion campaign that we're partnered with Organic Voices on, and this is to sort of drive education about what is still the core driver of interest in organic, which is the campaign is about skip the chemicals. And so that's launching this fall after a lot of good work, and then the consumer research that we've done will inform iterations and evolution of that program over time. But still, that core chemical message of, you know, organic is the way to know you're skipping the chemicals. And that goes for the consumer, but that also goes for all of the manufacturers in the room and controlling your supply chains as well. So don't forget about it from that perspective. The third piece of the campaign is around technical assistance for farmers in the United States seeking to transition to organic farming. And we know that's been a challenge between the gap for supply and meeting the growth in the marketplace, supply chain integrity challenges in a global environment. So again, this is a pilot program, but we've done 2 things. We're doing a university level white paper on how to best scale up this kind of technical assistance to growers. The thing that's challenging about organic is it's grown all over the country, every single commodity crop. What's going to help growers grow broccoli productively, efficiently, and store carbon in the soil is different than what's going to help a wheat farmer in Montana. So we're really trying to understand, again, like diversity in agriculture and how do you specifically meet those needs. And then we've piloted a Train the Trainer program for grains in the Midwest, which is at the real pinch point in terms of supply chain challenges for organic. So that program's up and off the ground, so we're excited about that. We also made a preliminary investment in research in collaboration with university partners and the Organic Center on the intersection between soil health, soil building, carbon sequestration and climate change mitigation, and yields for farmers, because that's the piece you've got to bring into the equation, because we know a lot about how to build soil. We're really learning a lot about what the opportunity is to capture carbon in the soil, and we need to then connect that to how can farmers maintain and improve their yields so that they can participate with us in that in a way that makes sense for their business operations. So we have 3 university projects that we invested in that this year on it. So again, these are just prototypes, and we think that the potential is enormous. We call the campaign Grow Organic, but it's about what we can do when we come together on the big issues.
It's been amazing to see what is happening in Grow that just launched this year, and we're excited to be supporters of that, and I would encourage everyone else to get involved as you can. And so we're nearly out of time. I want to get everyone out of the room by 10 so they can hit the show floor when it opens. So I'm going to a little challenge for the panelists. So in one word, how would you, listening to all of this today, knowing what you know about the industry, what do you think is going to be most influential for creating a positive, healthy future for our industry, society, and planet? And Andrew, I will put you on the spot with that one word.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. I would say inclusion. We have a long way to go, whether it's inclusion in terms of diversity, whether it's inclusion of socioeconomic status. Inclusion to me is the number one thing that our industry has to change, because you see these slides, 10% of sales are in natural today. Let's make that 100.
Inclusion, we'll love it.
I'm going to say commitment, because as we grow, we have to not only walk the walk, we have to be beasts about it. We have to dig in on these things and make sure that we're doing everything right in terms of what we're aspiring to have happen for change in the world. So just don't go easy on it. If you care about it, fully commit.
Commitment, love it.
I'll go with democratization. When I think about what we did at McDonald's with Honest Kids, we took a 35-calorie drink that, for the kids' kids meal, and replaced an 80-calorie drink. So that's a 45-calorie differential. We sold over 200 million units just in the past year. So that's removing over 1 billion calories from the American diet. So when we get that kind of scale, we can make that kind of change.
Democratization, awesome.
I think it's collaboration. I think one of the things, I came from big CPG, and I've been in natural organic about 10 years now, and the thing that's so different about this industry is that we help each other out, and we may be competing for some shelf space, but overall, as Andrew pointed out, there's so much room for natural and organic products to expand across every retailer, and to really break into QSR and stuff is like amazing. So I think instead of kind of going head to head as competitors, and say, who else can you help? Who can you bring up by their bootstraps? Who can you mentor? Because I think collaboration is the thing that's going to set this industry aside and apart.
My favorite concept, collaboration.
Well, I got 4 words in one. Jedi.
Yeah.
And the reason is because we have to make our healthy, organic wellness products available to everyone, democratization. We have to make sure people are justly heard, they're justly treated, and marginalized communities are part of decision making. That is what's going to help create a strong industry of the future, and a world, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Well, and I will end with the word love. I love what all of you are doing. I love this industry, and I love the potential we have for the future. So thank you so much for giving us your precious time and insights, and best of luck to everyone in an awesome Expo East. Thank you, Baltimore. It's our last time in Baltimore, and we'll be in Philly next year, so have a great show.